There's a moment in life when you realize that being constantly available to everyone is quietly draining you. You're answering every message, showing up for every request, reacting to every comment, and slowly your energy begins to vanish. You feel stretched thin, like your presence is being consumed without care. And the worst part? People start to take you for granted. When you're always there, always responding, always reacting, your value begins to fade in their eyes. It's not because you're less worthy. It's because availability without boundaries sends a message. You don't protect your energy. And when you don't protect it, others won't either. Carl Jung believed the psyche is an energy system. Every thought, every emotion, every action consumes psychic energy. So when you react impulsively to every little thing, you're spending that energy recklessly. You're leaking power. And over time, you feel exhausted, confused, and disconnected from yourself. Think about how often you've responded to something just to keep the peace. Or how many times you've said yes when your body screamed no. That's not kindness, it's self-abandonment. And the more you do it, the more you lose touch with your own needs, your own rhythm, your own truth. Boundaries aren't walls. They're filters. They let in what nourishes you and keep out what drains you. When you start saying no to what doesn't serve you, something shifts. People notice. Some get uncomfortable. Some pull away. But the ones who respect you, they lean in closer. Respect isn't demanded, it's earned through consistency. When you stop reacting to provocations, when you stop explaining yourself to everyone, when you stop being available to every emotional tug of war, you begin to reclaim your power. You're no longer a puppet to others' moods or expectations. You become the calm in the storm. It's not easy at first. You'll feel guilty. You'll worry about being misunderstood. But that discomfort is part of the process. It's the shedding of old patterns. It's the birth of a new self, one that values peace over performance, depth over drama. You don't owe anyone constant access to your mind, your time, or your emotions. You owe yourself protection. You owe yourself clarity. You owe yourself the space to breathe without being pulled in every direction. And here's the truth. When you stop being available to everything, you become available to what truly matters. Your creativity returns. Your intuition sharpens. Your relationships deepen. You start to feel alive again, not because you're doing more, but because you're doing less of what drains you. This isn't about isolation. It's about intention. It's about choosing where your energy goes instead of letting it be hijacked by noise. It's about stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't need to prove anything, explain anything, or chase anything. You'll notice something strange when you begin to pull back. Some people will panic. They'll try harder to get a reaction. They'll test your boundaries. That's because your silence disrupts their control. Your calm unsettles their chaos. And your refusal to engage forces them to look inward, which many aren't ready to do. But that's not your burden to carry. Your job is to protect your energy, not to manage theirs. Your silence is not a punishment. It's a declaration. It says, I choose peace. I choose presence. I choose myself. And once you taste that kind of freedom, you'll never want to go back. Because something else begins to happen when you stop reacting. You start to see clearly. You notice how often people try to pull you into their chaos. Not because they need help, but because they need control. They want your attention, your energy, your reaction. And when you don't give it, they lose their grip. This is where silence becomes more than just a boundary. It becomes a form of power. Carl Jung understood that the psyche isn't just a container of thoughts. It's a living energy field. Every time you react without thinking, you're handing over a piece of that energy. You're letting someone else dictate your internal state. But when you pause, when you choose not to respond, you're not being passive. You're being sovereign. There's a difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is automatic. It's emotional. It's often rooted in fear or ego. Responding, on the other hand, is conscious. It's measured. It comes from a place of clarity. And sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Silence unsettles people, especially those who rely on your reactions to validate their behavior. When you don't play the game falls apart. The manipulator loses their script. The critic loses their audience. The drama loses its fuel. You become a mirror, and not everyone is ready to see their reflection. People project their inner wounds onto others all the time. It's how they cope. It's how they avoid facing themselves. But when you stop reacting, you stop absorbing those projections. You stop carrying what was never yours to begin with. You stop being the emotional sponge for everyone else's unresolved pain. And something incredible happens. You begin to feel lighter, clearer, stronger. Your silence becomes a sanctuary, a space where your thoughts can breathe, where your emotions can settle, where your intuition can speak. It's not about shutting the world out. It's about tuning into yourself. This kind of silence isn't cold or distant. It's warm. It's alive. It's intentional. It says, I'm here, but I'm not available for chaos. I'm listening, but I'm not absorbing. I'm present, but I'm not performing. And the more you practice this, the more you realize how much noise you used to tolerate. How many conversations were just loops of projection? How many arguments were just battles of unhealed wounds? How much of your energy was spent trying to fix what was never yours to fix? You don't need to explain your silence. You don't need to justify your peace. You don't need to defend your decision to disengage. The people who truly see you will understand. The ones who don't were never really listening anyway. This is the shift from reactive power to sovereign power. From being pulled in every direction to standing rooted in your own center. From being a character in someone else's story to becoming the author of your own. And it all begins with a pause, a breath, a choice not to respond. But silence isn't just about protection. It's also about revelation. When you stop speaking, you start hearing. Not just the noise around you, but the voice within. The one that's been drowned out by constant reaction. The one that knows what you truly want. The one that's been waiting for you to listen. In that quiet space, you begin to notice patterns. You see how often people repeat the same emotional scripts. You see how often you've played roles that weren't yours. You see how much of your life has been shaped by reaction instead of intention. And you begin to choose differently. You choose peace over performance. You choose clarity over chaos. You choose depth over distraction. You choose yourself. And that choice changes everything. Because once you stop reacting and start listening to your inner voice, you begin to see who you really are beneath all the noise. You're no longer defined by how others see you or what they expect from you. You begin to live from the inside out, not the outside in. That's the beginning of inner sovereignty. The quiet, grounded power that comes from knowing yourself deeply and choosing yourself consistently. It's not about being perfect or untouchable. It's about being deeply rooted in your own truth. It's about knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to engage and when to walk away, when to give and when to protect what's yours. You begin to understand that your energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. Maturity isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't chase validation or beg to be understood. It simply is. And the more you grow into this space, the more you realize how much energy you used to waste trying to be everything for everyone. You start to notice how often you said yes out of guilt, how often you explained yourself to people who never really listened, how often you reacted just to feel seen. Now you're more selective, with your time, with your words, with your presence. Not because you're cold, but because you're clear. You've learned that not every conversation deserves your voice. Not every conflict needs your involvement. Not every invitation is meant for you. And that's okay. In fact, it's powerful. Silence becomes your compass. It shows you what truly matters. It reveals who respects your boundaries and who only valued your availability. It teaches you to sit with discomfort without rushing to fix it. To feel misunderstood without scrambling to explain. To be alone without feeling lonely. You begin to trust the quiet moments because they're no longer empty. They're full of truth. And yes, it's not always easy. There will be moments when your silence is misread, when people accuse you of being distant, arrogant, or uncaring, when your refusal to react is seen as weakness or avoidance. But you'll know better. You'll know that silence, when chosen consciously, is a sign of strength, not surrender. You'll know that protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's necessary. You'll also notice that some people will drift away. Not everyone can handle your growth. Not everyone will celebrate your boundaries. Some were only comfortable with the version of you that was always available, always agreeable, always reactive. When you stop playing that role, they don't know how to relate to you anymore. Let them go, because what you gain in return is far more valuable. Peace, clarity, authenticity. You begin to attract people who respect your energy, who don't demand constant access, who meet you in stillness instead of chaos. You begin to build relationships that are rooted in mutual respect, not emotional dependency. And most importantly, you reconnect with yourself. You start to hear your own thoughts again. You rediscover your passions, your values, your rhythm. You realize that your worth was never tied to how much you gave away. It was always in how deeply you knew yourself. You begin to live with intention, not obligation. You begin to speak with purpose, not pressure. You begin to move through the world with quiet confidence, not frantic effort. This is the quiet revolution, the one that doesn't need applause or recognition, the one that happens in the stillness of your own presence, the one that rebuilds you from the inside out. You're no longer chasing energy, you're generating it. You're no longer reacting to life, you're responding with clarity. You're no longer seeking approval, you're standing in your truth. And in that space, you find something rare, wholeness. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer fragmented. You're no longer scattered across 100 conversations, 1,000 reactions, 1,000,000 expectations. You're here, present, whole. So protect that. Guard it fiercely. Let your silence speak louder than your explanations. Let your boundaries teach others how to treat you. Let your energy flow where it's honored, not drained. Let your presence be felt without needing to be loud. Because when you stop being available to everything, you become available to what truly matters. And that changes everything.